Hey everyone, thanks for joining Learn to Play Games. My name is Lance, and in today's video, we'll look at a brand new game coming to Kickstarter called Warbonds Battle for Victoria. This is a new one from Punkfist Studios. It is a 2 to 5 player game that takes roughly 1 to 3 hours to play, and is a competitive game where players are going to be building up their armies and battling each other to try to eliminate their opponents. There's 3 different ways that players can win the game. The first one is to be the last player standing, eliminating all your opponents. The second way is building up your war camp to level 3. And the final way is having the biggest army once the dragon reaches the end space on the event track. So in this video, I'm going to take you through showing you some of the main features of the game, and then I'll show you a sample turn to give you a better idea how this one plays. As always, if you find my videos helpful, if you like what I do, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel. It's one of the easiest ways you can support channels like mine so we continue to grow and be able to produce this content. If you want to get notified anytime I drop new videos, also give that notification bell a ring, and that'll let you know whenever I drop new stuff. Now, I do want to point out that all the materials that you see here are prototype materials and are subject to change, and look a lot better in the final production copy of the game. I also have a playthrough video where I'm going to be playing through the first, middle, and end few turns to show you how the game plays and progresses, to also help you identify if this is one that you'd like to back. I'll have a link up to the top corner for that and at the end of the video. So let's go ahead and head to the table and we'll see what this one's all about. Let's start by taking a look at the most important unit in your army, which is going to be your warlord. If your warlord is ever eliminated, then you have lost the game and are out for the remainder of the game. Each warlord is going to come with their own card and is going to list all the different stats for that unit, along with 2 tokens, one to mark that warlord's position on the map, and the other one to determine when that warlord is activated on the initiative board, as you're going to see a little more later. On each warlord's card, it's going to have all the information for that warlord. At the top of the card is going to be the name of that warlord, along with its icon. For warlords is going to be the crown, and then their alliance, whether it is chaos, chaos evil, neutral, or lawful, as you're going to see a little bit later with the different warlords. And then you're going to have its different attributes, along with its image and its stats going down the side. Each warlord will have a number of hit points, their initiative, which their token is going to be placed on the initiative board, and the number of movement points that that warlord has. Next, the warlord is going to have a number of attacks that it'll perform during its turn if it's attacking, and its area of influence. So this is the perimeter around the warlord that will extend out that units will gain its influence from. Then each warlord is going to have 3 different types of defenses. You'll have vulnerability, so if there's any icons next to that, though that warlord or unit, it will be vulnerable to those types of attacks. Next is going to be your immunities. So if you have any icons in here, then that unit is immune to any of those types of attacks. And then finally, the resistances, or things that you are going to reduce damage from when receiving those types of attacks. And on this side are all the different abilities that your unit has. Some of these abilities are different attacks, such as with our warlord here, Axes is his attack, which allows him to do a melee attack that deals slashing damage and bumps his damage per attack up to 2. Then you have other abilities that you can activate during your turn, and these will tell you when you can activate them, such as this one that says during turn. And some of these abilities will also have a cost associated with them, so you must spend that cost in order to activate the ability. Some abilities are passive abilities, again, or other ones can be triggered at different times during your turn. And there'll be a whole collection of different warlords that you'll be able to choose from throughout the game. In this prototype, I have 5 different warlords to choose from initially, but there will probably be more as things go on. The other type of unit you're going to have in your army are squads, and each one of these is going to have a collection of 4 cards. When a player brings in a new squad of that type, you're going to grab one of those cards and the associated tokens with the subname that is going to be listed on the side of the card. And all of the cards are exactly the same for that unit. So the adept archers, all their cards are exactly the same and work the same. They just have different subnames. That way then there can be multiple units out at one time, and you'll know which units are yours and which units are other players. Each one of these units is going to again have an alliance to certain things, whether it is neutral, chaotic, or lawful. And again, we'll have all their different abilities and stats listed on the bottom of those cards. The new thing that they have is going to be supply, which when they come out, you'll place a number of supply tokens on there, and then throughout the game, they can activate abilities by spending some of those supply tokens to trigger those abilities. And there's going to be a whole collection of different units you can bring into the game, such as Bleeding Horrors or Begotten Witches, the Living Dead, Painbringers, Valkyries, and Wandering Spirits, just to name a few. Now that I've discussed the two different types of units that will make up your army, the next thing I need to talk about is your war camp. This is one of the most important features that you're going to have, and one that you must protect, because if you ever lose your war camp, then you are out of the game as well. Each war camp is going to have a number of different functions, such as resupplying and restocking your troops, being able to summon new troops out of it, and being able to move around the board when it is converted over to its mobile side. Now, with your army, there are no resources, as you saw, to trigger or spend to bring units in. You can simply choose a unit and place them out, as you're going to see a little bit later in the video. There are limitations on the number of units that you can have, and each player will be able to have 6 units out at any time, plus their warlord. So your army's size is going to be limited, so the choices you make on which units to bring out is going to be very important in your strategy for bringing your army victory. Each player is also going to receive a player guide book, and in this book it is going to give you a quick reference to some of the main rules you're going to be using throughout the game, such as different events that will be triggered at the end of each round, and some of the introduction to it, as well as a quick guide for all the different icons in the game on all the different cards and all that, as well as a reference to the different train types, your camp, and what kind of abilities it can activate depending upon what type of form it's in as well, whether it's an encampment or a caravan, and the different abilities you can also trigger for that, and the different levels of your camp. It is also going to have a guide for all the different warlords in the game, so if you don't know what your opponent's warlord's abilities are, you can reference them here instead of having to ask your opponent for your card. And for those that are just starting out, it also gives you a great guide for what units it suggests that you build for your different warlords, depending upon which one you've selected. And then after that is all the different units that are included in the game. Each unit is going to have its own section that'll show you its card and abilities and give you a little brief backstory about that and strategy to how to use that unit or tips for that unit. And all the different units are going to be included, so you'll be able to reference those whether you have them or wishing to deploy them or your opponent has them. The game itself is going to be played over a number of rounds, and each round is going to be tracked on your initiative table. This is going to dictate when the different units are going to activate and the different effects and things you're going to have to handle throughout the rounds. At the beginning of each round, you're going to move the current round tracker down the track, starting at 1, working from the top to the bottom and from left to right, working your way through each column and then coming back to the next column. When you reach a unit, you're going to activate that unit and be able to perform the different actions that that unit has. Once that's completed, the token is going to continue moving, cycling through each one of these different sections, activating units as it gets through them. Once you've reached the end of this, then this is going to move over into the war camps stage, where you're going to activate each one of the war camps, starting with the player 1 war camp and working your way down through that. Then it is going to trigger a repair step where each one of the war camps will be able to repair a certain number of hit points if it has lost any. After that, you are going to be able to recover one of your tokens if it is in the graveyard. As you lose units, you're going to be placing your tokens in the graveyard from those units. So you'll get to regain one of those at the end of each one of these steps. Then if there's any loyalty in here, then you're going to be able to distribute that. Once you've completed that, you're going to work your way over to recalls, handling any recalls and effects for that. And then you're going to move over to the event. So the dragon is going to activate, moving over 1 and then handling the effects on that space, which each one of these is going to have different effects in the game. Then if anybody wants to concede, they can do that. You can exchange leadership by spending 3 loyalty points for a leadership token. And then end of round effects are going to be handled at this point. Next is to flip and enable units. So if you've canceled recalls or if you deploy new units, such as let's say that I deployed these archers this turn, they're always going to start in their disabled side. And during this step, you're going to flip them over so during their next turn, they'll be able to take their actions as normal. And then finally, you're going to start a new round, moving this token back to the starting position and going through everything again. So the final thing I want to do is take you through a sample round to show you how some of the different mechanics work, such as attacking and dueling and all those different things in a game round. So let's go ahead and jump into it. And for the first thing we're going to do on the initiative table is you're going to move the current turn indicator, moving it down from top to bottom, left to right, activating all of the units as it moves through. So the first column, there are no units there, so then we're going to go to the next column, and Anna is up in the next column, and she is the first one to go. So during her turn, she can do a movement action, she can do an action or a move, an action, and up to 3 during turn actions. And each one of those must be a different one. So she can't do the same during turn multiple times. So with her turn, she is right next to Tengus there. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and try to attack him. I think that's probably the best thing at this point. And I'm going to go ahead and use my Sai. It's a melee attack, so I have to be 1 space away from my target, and it has to be orthogonally straight, so I could not attack diagonally. And with her attack, again, it does either light or dark or death damage. I'm going to go ahead and do the death damage, as Tengus is not resistant to death. This is going to do +1 to her bad, and it's going to give her +1 to her attacks versus undead. So the +1 to attacks is not going to come into play because he is not undead. So she's going to do a total of, so first off, let's go ahead and calculate her total. So any attack is always going to do 1 point of damage unless there is resistance. Her attack does +1 to that. So every attack she does is going to do 2 damage, and she does 4 attacks. So she's going to dish out 8 damage to Tengus. So I'm going to go ahead and add damage die to him, so he has taken 8 damage at this point. And then with her, she is going to, that is the resolving. From there, then if there was anything else to handle, that would come into play, such as a check for presence. And this is going to depend on whether the character is lawful or if the character is chaotic. So with her, she doesn't have to worry about that. There's nothing else that she needs to do. So that is the end of her turn. Then we're ready to move on to the archers. So the archers are going to be next. With the archers, I'm going to go ahead and use a during turn action. So I'm going to go ahead and spend that, and I get a free move action onto the roadway. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And each one of these, again, I can only do once. So now that I've used that, I cannot use that again. So from there, I am going to move over 1 and 2, as I have a range of 2 or 3. And I'm going to go ahead and do an attack action against the vermin over there. So in order to do that, I'm going to use my bows. And the bows have a ranged attack of up to 2 spaces. They're going to do slashing damage, and the vermin do not have any resistance to that. They're going to do +1 against flying, and my unit is flying, or a flying unit. So they're going to do 4 damage to the vermin. So they're going to take 4. And that is their turn, as that was their action, their move, and they don't have any other during turn actions at the moment. So I think I'm good there. All right, from there, it's going to move over to those guys to go. They're going to go ahead and move up 1, and they're going to do a deploy action to bring another unit in here. So in order to do that, I am going to choose another unit. I'm going to take the little anarchists, and I'm going to grab their tokens. So these are the crusty ones. So I'm going to gain both of their tokens. I'm going to place the 1 token out that has the movement value on it on top of a player token on the disabled side. And then the token with the initiative number on it, I'm going to place on that column. So this is a number 6, and it's going to go on the disabled side, and it's going to go underneath any other units that are in that column. All right, and then I'm going to add this unit over, and this unit does come with 1 supply. So that will go there. From there, then it's going to move on to the next, as there's nothing else I can do with that unit. So it would go over to the Crusties. They are disabled, so they do not get to take a turn. So they're going to continue moving over to Tangus to go. Moving into Tangus's turn, he's going to go ahead and initiate a duel against Anna. So with that, anytime a warlord initiates a duel, that warlord is going to gain 1 leadership. But with the orc here, he is super nasty. He has battle pride, so he's going to gain 2 instead whenever he initiates a challenge against a warlord in a duel. Okay, now the other player can choose to decline. If she does, she has to spend 1 of her leadership tokens. But she's going to go ahead and accept, of course, for this example. So when a duel happens, you're going to bring out the special dueling board, and you're going to place another current turn indicator on there. And with this is going to continue until the duel is resolved, which is either one of the players is eliminated or one of the players chooses to end the duel. So that means you're going to go through attack after attack after attack, cycling through this process each time. Now, other units can interrupt, and in order to interrupt, a unit must spend a loyalty token to do so. If it's a lawful unit, it can interrupt to block. If it's a chaos unit, it can interrupt to attack. And it has to be within the warlord's sphere of influence in order to do that. So let's go ahead and start off with, you're going to check for interruptions. Right now, nobody's going to do anything. So then the first warlord is going to attack, and this is based on the initiative. So Anna's going to go ahead and attack Tangus, and she's going to deal out 8 damage to him again. So he's up to 16 damage now. So we'll add that there. So he's got 16 on him. All right. Then it is going to go over to Tangus. Again, is there going to be an interrupt to this? No, the other player is not going to do that yet. So then Tangus is going to go. I'm going to go ahead and spend 1 leadership token to be able to use my Fire Frenzy. So it says during turn I can pay 1 to heal 2. So that'll bring me down to 14. And I gain +1 attack, a number of attacks, and can optionally deal out fire. Now Anna does not have any resistances, so the fire isn't that important. But the +1 attack is very beneficial. So Tangus is going to do 6 attacks, and each attack is going to do +1 damage, or a total of 2 damage per attack. So he's going to dish out 12 damage to her. So he caught up real quick. So she is at 12. And then we're going to continue on, checking for interruptions. Then the first warlord, Anna, could choose to end the duel. If she does not, then it'll move over to the second warlord to choose to end the duel. He is definitely not going to, so then we're going to start a new round of duels. So first off, with the first warlord, she's going to attack again, dealing 8 more damage to him. So he's up to 22. Damage. So, and he's got 32 hit points. He's got 10 hit points left. Then it's going to move over to Tangus to go. So he's going to go ahead and attack. But before he does, the Barded, Phalanxes are going to interrupt the attack and spend 1 leadership. So they're going to take the attack instead of Anna. They basically step in and block and shield her from this attack. So with that, they are going to take 5 points of damage from Tangus. So, well, they do have slashing and fire. Yeah, so they're going to take it no matter what. All right, so they take 5 from him. And then we're going to check for interrupts. There aren't any. So then again, the first warlord can choose to end the duel. So right now she's at 12 points of damage out of 31. So she's good. The second warlord over to Tangus, he can choose at this point to bail from this combat or not. Now, if he bails, any unit that is within his sphere that is chaos is going to lose a loyalty token. So that's bad news in that situation. So do I end the duel? I can do it for free because her unit did interrupt, so I won't be penalized for that. but I think I'm going to go one more round on this. But for the sake of this demo or example here, I'm just going to go ahead and say that, let's just go ahead and say that he bailed on that. So he's just going to leave the duel. He is not going to suffer any penalties because she did one of her units did interrupt. So then we're going to continue on with the phalanx to go next now. So combat just continues, the turn continues going as the players work their way through. So they're going to go ahead and move down and attack. Now with their attack, each one of their attacks does 1 damage and it's slashing, and Tengus is immune to that, so he has a resistance to it. So he's going to reduce the amount of damage that each attack does by 1. And so the phalanxes are not going to do any damage, but because they're in Anna's sphere and they attacked as a law unit, they're going to gain a loyalty for that. And that is going to be their turn. So now it is over to these guys to go. They're going to go ahead and simply move up, and then they're going to use a during turn action to move 1 more. And then it'll move into the war camps. So each war camp is able to do either a full turn deployment, and then they have some during turn things that they can do as well, as long as there is a unit within their reach. So this camp is deployed, so it cannot move normally, but it is able to do a during turn action to move onto a roadway as a bonus. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for my first thing, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a deploy action. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a unit to deploy, and I think I'm going to take some clerics to help try to heal me up a little bit here. So I'm going to take them, and I have to take their tokens out. So I get those. And this will be placed out. So they are number 9, and they're going to start disabled. So I'm going to place them back here. And then their unit's going to go over here with 2 supply tokens on it. From there, then it would move over to the next war camp to take its turn. So this one's in a movement state, so it's going to go ahead and move 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to move 1 more with the during turn action. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. So that is its turn. So then it would cycle through, and we move into the repair step. So each one of the war camps could repair a number of hit points if they take any damage. Next, you're going to collect any loyalty that was out there from certain things. And if you have any of your tokens in the graveyard, you'll get to gain one of those tokens back. And as units die, their player tokens are going to be placed in the graveyard. So at this point, each player would get one of those back. From there, then it's going to kick up and handle any recall. So if any units had no loyalty or were forced into a recall, you would handle that step now. From there, then you'd move the dragon. So each time the dragon moves, he's going to initiate some event that's on there. So the first one is War Speech. So with War Speech, that allows starting with player 1, you're going to pick between gaining a leadership token or gaining a loyalty token for each of your currently deployed units. So both of those are really good options. But let's go ahead and say that player 1 chooses to gain a loyalty token for each of her units. So she is going to add 1 to each one of them. And with player 2, he's going to just go ahead and gain a leadership token, we'll say. And then that is handled. So then it is going to go into concede. So a player can choose to just drop out if things are going really bad for that player. From there, then we're going to exchange loyalty or leadership, loyalty for leadership. So any units that you have out can trade in loyalty for 3 points of loyalty. You gain 1 leadership. So let's say, for example, that these 3 units traded in 1 loyalty apiece. Then I could add 1 leadership to my warlord. After that, then it would move on to any end of round effects, which there aren't any currently out. You would move into flip and enable. So that is where all of the units that came out that were disabled would flip over to their active sides. So Krusty's over here. Okay. And then finally, we would start a new round at the top. So I hope that gives you a good idea how the game plays and helps you decide on whether or not this is one you want to back on Kickstarter. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please post those in the comments section below and I'll do my best to answer them. Or swing by the Kickstarter's main comment page and drop any questions you have there as well. I'm sure the creator would love to hear from you and is more than happy to answer any questions you have. Until next time, I'll see you later.